New Brunswick, New Jersey, home of Rutgers University. 51 weeks a year, a peaceful college town. But once a year, the campus is transformed. From jewel of the Garden State to a miniature model of Washington, D.C. And eager young minds descend, and they transform as well. From high school student to public servant, ready to debate the issues that lie at the very core of this great nation.
We do not compromise with communists.
So the money would go directly to solving the problem.
What else do we know? We need to get more information.
Raise and augment the fine for child abuse.
The police commissioner believes that we might be under attack.
Let the market run. Everybody has an incentive to improve something.
Welcome to a new America. Welcome to Model Congress.
Springtime in New Brunswick. Green leaves, sunshine, and 509 high school students all chomping at the bit to begin day one of the 4-day Model Congress Conference.
It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you Governor Jim Florio.
I'm Jim Florio, and I was very pleased to be invited to this Model Congress session. You can't solve a problem if you don't know what the problem is. Influencing young people is a very important function that I think all of us have. The problem today is not too little information. The problem today is too much information. This is the leadership cadre of the future. And what leaders of the future have to develop is not just intelligence, but analytical intelligence. Be able to separate the wheat from the chaff and hopefully not throw away the wheat. The faces were very attentive, and I could see there was a seriousness of purpose. I congratulate you on what you've done to this point, and perhaps more importantly, what you've yet to do with your very productive lives. And now we're going to have informed, intelligent leaders coming out of this grouping of people, and that's inspirational. It makes me feel really good about the future of this country. Congratulations, good luck.
It is my honor to call this session of Rutgers Model Congress 2010 to order.
The conference provides students with an opportunity to take politics out of the classroom and into real life before their very eyes. Delegates are transformed from student to public official the minute they step through the doors. And our cameras were there to document the journey of 6 very special young minds.
Hello, my name is Andrew Huang. I'm from Parsippany, New Jersey, and I'll be representing the staff secretary in the West Wing.
I'm Danielle Barrett. I'm a junior at Ward Melville High School, representing education and labor for the Republican Party in Wisconsin.
My name is Emmanuel Kim. I am a junior at Ward Melville Senior High School, and I am part of the New York City Mayor Council, and I will be the chairperson of the Housing and Education Committee.
Jahan Mirchandani. I am 15 years old and in the 10th grade. I go to Floral Park Memorial High School, and I am representing the police commissioner at the Mayor's Council.
I'm Hannah Schlechter. I'm a sophomore at Floral Park Memorial High School. I will be in the Cuban Missile Crisis Committee, representing General Maxwell Taylor.
My name is Camila Marcone. I'm a junior at Highland Park High School. I'm in the committee called Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, and I'm a Republican senator from Mississippi.
Minutes before the first sessions of the weekend are set to begin. Already, the conference's atmosphere is electric.
And as we go throughout this weekend, all I want you guys to remember are 3 words. Yes, we can! Yes!
The conference itself is massive, with 509 students spread across 21 unique committees.
What committee are you in? Senate?
And each committee has a director who frames and moderates debate.
The directors for this year's RMC are all Rutgers University students.
Students who selflessly give up their free time to support what is clearly a labor of love.
We've been working on our committees and topics for a little under a year. We do this on a volunteer basis, but Everyone who's involved with this organization has a passion for both education and government.
Our show focuses on 4 advanced committees: the West Wing, the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the New York City Mayor's Office. As these 14 teenagers are about to find out, running America's biggest city is no joke. With a population of 8 million people, New York City is home to Wall Street's big spenders and struggling communities. And balancing these forces is not for the weak of heart.
I'm John Marshall. I'm the committee director for the New York City Mayor's Office. The New York City Mayor's Office is a simulation of the executive branch of the New York City government. Session 1 started off everybody getting to know each other, everyone feeling out positions. All of you are representing a position that is filled by a real person. And understanding who that real person is can help you understand how that position operates.
I am the police commissioner, and I must provide security, safety, and protection to all members of the city of New York.
I've tried emailing the police commissioner of New York City, Mr. Raymond Kelly, about his actual stance. I was hoping I could use it, but he didn't get back to me, so it's okay.
In the real world, Mayor Bloomberg runs the show. But in Model Congress, the New York City Mayor's Office is fronted by Rutgers political science major Cody Gorman.
My name is Cody Gorman, and I'm playing the role of Mayor Michael Bloomberg of New York City. I can just stroll into the joint and everyone claps for me. Yeah, I'm that guy. So it's pretty sweet.
Mayor Bloomberg is one of the roles played by an elite CSS team who will present the students with challenges throughout the conference.
The members of CSS are basically the actors of the conference. Whenever a crisis arises or some type of information is necessary, we augment the problems that each committee faces. Basically, we want to get as much done with the housing crisis as soon as we can before the term's over.
Mayor Bloomberg has given this committee their very first task: fix troubled public housing in New York City. It's a highly polarized debate, and the delegates are going to have to come up with a unified and practical plan to present to their mayor.
I'm the chairperson of the New York City Housing Council, and my main role is to have a huge advisory role to the mayor. Playing the role of the chairperson of the Housing Council, I look forward to really bring more of a conservative agenda to the table. Let the market run. And by letting the market run, everybody has an incentive to improve something.
But Emanuel's fiscally conservative position was not shared by all members in the committee.
My goal was basically to take charge and to really let the committee know that I'm serious about finding a solution and working together.
According to New York City law, public housing residents cannot pay as rent 30% or more of their income.
I think the committee overall is a very strong committee. Now, I think Jahan was a very good speaker and also brought up and connected, I have to admit, many important points in the committee.
Emanuel supports a market-based approach, but it's at odds with Jahan's proposal to keep public housing in the hands of the government. They'll need to form alliances to strengthen their positions and to try to sway the group as a whole. The battle for New York City's public housing has begun. Next on Model Congress.
The president has been shot. I can lose my temper. We're talking about what's already happening. How are you going to deal with it?
Crisis in the West Wing. Welcome back to Model Congress on MSG Varsity. At the heart of Model Congress is the West Wing. Just like the real-life office of the president, the West Wing is responsible for issuing presidential vetoes, consulting with world leaders, approving military actions, and, of course, answering to the president. The president, played by committee member Janina Paszynski, is modeled after real-life President Obama. As part of the CSS committee, she'll be presenting the team with crises, and members of the committee are going to have to keep their cool.
Hello, I'm Andrew Huang. I am the staff secretary.
The staff secretary is the person who organizes materials to give to the president for viewing in order for her to make better decisions. I'm essentially the funnel that everything gets put into, so it goes to the president.
In other committees, day one is low-key, but in the West Wing, it's sink or swim.
Today, we opened committee with an immediate shocker to hit the kids with.
Oh my God! The president has been shot!
We told them that our president, our fictional president, Stephanie Freeman, modeled after President Obama, was shot at.
All I know right now is that a single shot was fired from a building across the street. No one was hurt. We don't have any more information at this time. She's back on Air Force One. She will be back to us shortly, but this is something we got to figure out how to deal with.
Yes, Cody.
All right, I'd probably say the first thing we need to do is to address the American people to stop the hysteria that may be caused by the possible harm of their president.
I feel that we need to find out how a person brought a gun into the area where the president was giving the speech.
Well, right now there are people in the committee who I would describe as power delegates. Cody, our national security advisor, and Andrew, who try to speak as much as possible and be heard as much as possible.
We must seek approval before we send any investigative bodies into Canada.
We must work as quickly as possible to get in there, capture who it is, bring him to justice.
Sometimes it makes it difficult because other children aren't getting the time that they should be getting in debate.
The committee agreed that an emergency press conference should be called. The delegates split up into an unmoderated caucus to plan out exactly what should be said.
Someone shot the president in Canada. Why wouldn't someone just do it here? Why?
In an unmoderated caucus, delegates are allowed to leave their seats and gather in groups to discuss the topic at hand.
We don't know where this person acquired the rifle.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. It matters everything. It matters everything.
There's one person who seems to be flatly against everything we are saying.
No, it matters everything where somebody acquired the rifle.
Calm down.
Can I finish talking?
Calm down.
He's the national security advisor. He's playing against everything that we're going for, and no matter what we say, he is spinning against it.
On grounds of transparency, we cannot have the general public knowing every little last
We actually have to talk to the CIA about that.
Cody, our national security advisor, is more conservative than the rest of the group. As a result, it's caused a little bit of hostility with some of the other kids in the room.
That's not what I'm saying. You're not listening.
That's exactly what you're saying.
I can lose my temper.
Hold on a second.
If someone repeatedly goes against me and completely ignores what I'm saying, I will get up and yell at the person.
Don't tell me, don't call me.
Don't be condescending to us. Don't be condescending. No, we need the president to come out.
Passion is essential in politics, but Andrew's temper could get in the way of his success in the West Wing.
No, we're talking about what's already happening. How are you going to deal with it?
They're trying to respond the best way they can to what's going on.
Don't tell them about it. Don't tell them about it. We'll figure out about it.
They went crazy trying to figure out what to tell the press, how much information should we reveal.
All right, what else do we know? We need to get more information.
Hopefully we can get everybody on the same page, though, because these kids have to work together or nothing's going to get done.
Finally, the committee was able to come up with a plan. They decided to call a press conference where the president would address the nation.
All right, so we're done with the press release. We're done with the press release.
As they started to plan the logistics for the press conference, a key piece of information came to light concerning the attempted murder weapon.
The weapon found on site was responsible for the attack. It is an American rifle, unregistered.
It was revealed to them that the gun used in the attack was an American-made model that was somehow smuggled into Canada and was unregistered. Gun control ended up being a big part of the debate for a while.
Almost every single assassination attempt, they have been political people have been trying to play it off and use it.
We realized that we can play this off and use it to deal with gun control. We'll get lobbyists. We'll get lobbyists up here.
This new information was Andrew's opportunity to establish himself as a team player and solidify his position as a leader in the committee.
I've always tried to make the first statement stand out strong, but I realized that it might be better to wait a little bit, try to hold my temper in, try to calm down, listen to what other people are saying, and then people eventually could see that my views have some basis.
The important thing is not passing something. Right now, first we need to get the idea into the minds of the American people. We need to get people incensed about this. We need to get the public calling for what we're calling for and agreeing with us.
But Andrew's real test would be convincing the president to talk about gun control in her statement to the press.
Instead of getting like 5 points of political leverage, you can get 5,000 points because you would show that you're strong, you can lead the American people. So maybe not a 2-minute speech, I'd say 5 minute.
Yes, I think that's a prime opportunity to do so. I think that the opportunity to use this statement to capitalize on gun control policy is an opportunity that we can't pass up.
I feel like I am playing a similar role in this conference to what my actual political views are. I feel that we do need some form of gun control.
We'll see you early in the morning?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
I think I accomplished my goals, which was to make allies for what I want to pass, because I cannot pass anything without people to help me out.
Next, meet Hannah Schlechter.
We are America. We are a democratic government. We do not compromise with communists.
Coming up right here on MSG Varsity. Welcome back to Model Congress. A quick glance at the list of committees represented at Model Congress, and one name stands out from the pack: the Cuban Missile Crisis. Unlike the mayor's office or the West Wing, the Cuban Missile Crisis is a historical committee based around the real-life events of October 1962.
The Cuban Missile Crisis was a situation back in the 1960s where the Soviet Union placed offensive nuclear weapons on the island of Cuba, which was under the communist regime of Fidel Castro. And it was up to the president and his cabinet to determine what course of action they should take in order to respond to these weapons.
But this committee is not a strict reenactment. Instead, it plays out like a movie based loosely around historical events.
The crisis was averted in real life, and what we're doing here is re-simulating it under similar conditions but not the exact same conditions to have the students understand what that was like to try and avert this nuclear war that the world was on the verge of.
The committee is packed with heroic figures from American history: John and Robert Kennedy, Adlai Stevenson, and General Maxwell Taylor, a war hawk of the highest order, represented by 16-year-old sophomore Hannah Schlechter.
I'm General Maxwell Taylor. I'm the Chief of Joint Staff for Kennedy's ExComm committee that he appointed during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
And just like the real-life ExComm, the delegates in the Cuban Missile Crisis Committee were in a race against time.
There is actually a running clock that the students have to contend with. Because the crisis elapsed over about 13 days in real life, we don't have 13 days, so each committee session represents 2 days of the actual crisis.
Time is one obstacle. Conflicts of faith are another. To accurately represent General Taylor, Hannah must portray a perspective that she does not personally believe.
Maxwell Taylor goes for a very aggressive military approach, where personally I would go for more of a diplomatic approach. But Maxwell Taylor is very strict about not compromising with communists and taking military action to reprimand Cuba and the Soviet Union.
As debate gets underway, the choice between military and diplomatic action becomes the committee's focal point. And as Hannah transforms herself from teenage girl to distinguished general, her sympathy for anything but military recourse fades into the abyss.
We do not compromise with communists. This does not happen. We are America. We are a democratic government. We do not compromise with communists. I want the missiles out of Cuba, not compromising with communists. I want them out of Cuba because the U.S. military was strong enough to take care of the situation and take them out of Cuba with force. We can't assume that they're going to back down if we invade, but we have to assume that they mean harm by putting missiles in Cuba this close to the U.S.
Hannah has been doing quite remarkably so far. She's doing really great.
I just want to reiterate the fact that we need to protect the American people. That's our main focus here.
The first thing that I noted was that she stepped out of the box really assertive.
I also think that the public does not need to be aware of any actions that we are taking until after they are taken. We do not need the public having a mass scare.
She was making great points, but that wasn't even really what was important. It was important that she was coming out and being assertive and establishing her presence. And that's really what I think really counted for her so far early on in this simulation. Welcome to day 2 of the crisis.
Despite Hannah's hawkish views, the majority of the group favors exploring all diplomatic options before mobilizing for an attack.
Nobody wants to push the button.
We definitely shouldn't act militarily.
I feel like that could pretty much end things for all humanity right there.
As Session 1 nears a close, the body is torn. Immediate military action or naval quarantine, which would empower the U.S. Navy to search any Cuban-bound vessel for weapons.
A quarantine will show them that we're ready to talk, but we're not going to do it lightly, and that we have the upper hand because the missiles are in our backyard, not theirs.
As a body, we agreed that a quarantine would be a good idea to make sure that no more missiles are coming into Cuba. I do believe that the quarantine is a good idea, but I think we all need to have trust in the military because it can successfully take care of these missiles.
Before the day ends, the committee has to debrief President Kennedy on their progress. Like the West Wing and the mayor's office, the role of JFK is played by a character from CSS.
Right, so it's very difficult to portray a character like JFK, and it's really hard to do the true justice.
So I hope we have good ideas. I hope you're all ready to impress me.
What you can do is you can try to implement the policies and take the position that he did. And throughout this entire crisis, he took the position that averts nuclear war.
I feel that acting unilaterally is perhaps not in our best interest unless we are forced into that.
He did say there were many problems with our solution, especially if the Soviet Union decided to retaliate.
If the Soviets attack us, our contingency plan is to attack them, and that includes nuclear weapons.
Myself, as JFK, has been slowing things down, trying to get the delegates to think their actions through.
We are on the brink.
You don't want to jump to conclusion. You don't want to jump to war.
Thank you very much, all. Take care.
Most of us in the committee are not looking forward to a nuclear war. We'll have to revise some of our compromises. I'm really looking forward to explaining my ideas to the committee more next session.
We now return to Model Congress. With the Rutgers Model Congress now in full swing, an important session of the Senate gets underway. It is the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, also known as the Senate Help Committee. Camilla Marcone and Danielle Barrett are two of 24 focused delegates primed for an intense weekend.
I really like to sing.
He wakes up in the morning.
And I'm in my school's choir.
Does his teeth bite to eat and he's rolling.
I'm proud of my writing, and that's what I plan on doing in the future. I spend a lot of time trying to hone that skill.
I really like to act and do theater, and it's been literally a journey to go from being a small ensemble part to getting bigger and bigger roles.
The skills that are important in writing are being clear, direct, but at the same time sounding intelligent and sophisticated enough to get people to agree with you. It's very similar to the way that one would have to articulate an argument.
One of the most important things that translates is to leave it all on the floor. On stage, to not hold back. If you do hold back, you're not going to be taken seriously at RMC. If you don't fully commit, then you just make yourself look like a lesser delegate.
The Senate Help Committee has been convened to address two important issues: health care for undocumented immigrants and child abuse and neglect. Now in session, they would have to decide which item to tackle first.
The issue of health care is very divided, party by party, Democrats against Republicans. So I think we should unify our committee by creating comprehensive legislation addressing the issue of child abuse and neglect.
After some debate, the group agrees with Camilla.
I was a little worried that debate wasn't going to be as fiery as it usually is, partially because we started with child abuse and neglect, which is an issue that both parties think is bad and aren't going to really be divided on.
If you educate everyone who you can about child abuse, then that will help to stop it from starting in the first place.
Another thing that is essential to solving this issue is informing the general public.
A mass media campaign can be carried out and will prevent future cases.
It picked up as the differing opinions began to show more.
In Model Congress, delegates are expected to represent the interests of their given home state and political party. Frequently, that platform runs counter to the students' personal views. This is the case for Camilla, as she portrays a Republican senator from Mississippi.
In real life, I'm a diehard Democrat, so it's very liberal, so it's a little strange to be Republican.
Though it may be somewhat awkward, it is a challenge she fully embraces.
I wanted to propose something that I thought would show that I was conveying that Republican persona. I want to make it clear the thing about the religious agencies, because I know people were getting sort of uncertain about that.
Mississippi is really interested in having grants given to faith-based organizations.
One of the problems that was brought up with this whole idea of education for parents who are abusing their children was that parents don't want to admit that they're abusing their children. Parents don't want to admit that they're hurting the people they love. So in a religious community, there'd be more trust and these programs would probably flourish more. That sort of like caused a stir, and there were questions about that, and I got like a million notes saying like this violates the First Amendment, separation of church and state.
It's a little sticky when you directly fund faith-based organizations.
I definitely do think that this would pose a First Amendment issue.
It was just fun to answer. It's fun to play the other party. These are funds that aren't going to be used for religious purposes. That's just sort of like the medium of execution. That gave me like a chance to see how the Republican views stacked up with the issue at hand.
As Danielle is a Republican from Wisconsin, it's no surprise that she supports Camilla's proposition.
But if it were to give a grant to a religious organization, a lot of times they have volunteers. So the money would go directly to solving the problem.
Personally, I consider myself a conservative. Wisconsin's more democratic, but I'm representing the Republican facet of that. That's pretty in line with what I believe personally, so that'll be easier for me to enforce.
An experienced debater, Danielle is aggressive from the outset, showing no signs of her inexperience as a delegate.
The Establishment Clause would not be violated by the government giving money to a faith-based organization for a non-religious activity, but a activity just to benefit the community.
This is my first conference. A lot of the people here have been to other model congresses in the past or model United Nations or other programs like that. I've never been to anything.
We just decided, so you should do this too. We're going to draft things tonight too and then put the best elements of all of them together.
Like most committees at Model Congress, Senate Help is filled with active and well-prepared students. But both Camilla and Danielle have demonstrated charisma and seem to be among the group's early leaders.
Overall, it's already been more than I expected, more fun and more interesting.
I'm really excited, even though I'm really tired. The roller coaster of emotions has already begun.
As the conference's first session winds down in the West Wing, Andrew is pleased with his efforts to connect with other delegates.
I feel like I had people who would support me on a personal level, and that can easily be extrapolated to a political level. I made friends. I enjoyed myself.
Across the hall in the New York City mayor's office, both Jahan and Emmanuel are confident about pushing their agendas.
I think we should. There isn't much really debate about, oh, your policy is wrong or your proposed solution is wrong. It's more of to what extent should we implement your solution?
Tonight I'll be pretty busy trying to formulate a solution that we can introduce in committee that most people probably should agree with.
For her part, Hannah brought a strong militaristic stance to the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I think everyone in the committee or all the delegations know that I'm very towards military action. They know my opinion now, and that was my main goal for tonight's session.
The first day comes to an end, and the students are now settling into the fever-pitch environment that Model Congress fosters. Now, they all must prepare for a long and challenging day 2.